or cells, excuse me, have internal structure, and the cytoskeleton helps or is responsible for most of those structures. And so it's made up of lots of different types of fibers and tubules, and they support the cell and help position it, help transport organelles and materials throughout the cell. They provide strength, they assist in cell division, and they also help cells move, both move things internally, and they help cells move around in their environment. So cilia and flagella are two types of microtubules, microfilaments, that are part of the cytoskeleton and help cells move. We'll see this heading here at the top. Several organelles are involved in making and processing protein, so you don't have to write that every time you see it, but all of them will fall under that heading. The nucleus is the first organelle that falls under the heading of protein production, and we always think of the nucleus. If you remember maybe from 7th grade, the nucleus is like the command center or the office of the cell because it has that important DNA, but as we'll see as we go through this course, DNA is really just instructions for making proteins. And so the nucleus is important because it keeps that DNA safe. Here we've got a nice picture of endoplasmic reticulum and ribosomes, two more organelles associated with protein production. So we look at ribosomes. These are the tiny red dots in this picture. They read the instructions sent from the nucleus, and they actually make the proteins themselves. They can be free-floating in the cytoplasm, or they can be attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulum. And so then let's talk about the endoplasmic reticulum. Lots of different jobs actually happen in the ER, which I'll call it from now on. And there are two types of ER, the rough ER, which we just saw studied with those ribosomes. That's where proteins are produced on the ribosomes, and then the proteins are prepared to be shipped out of the cell. The smooth ER is another type of endoplasmic reticulum, and this is a place where fats or lipids are produced in addition to doing several other jobs. Golgi apparatus then receives proteins that have been produced on ribosomes in the rough ER and packages them for shipment out of the cell. And then those proteins can then be passed on from the Golgi apparatus to vesicles, which are just kind of tiny little membrane-bound pockets that'll help push those proteins out of the cell and send them where they need to go. Moving away from protein production, we can look at some other important organelles in the cell. We have the mitochondria, everybody's favorite, powerhouse of the cell. This is where cellular respiration happens, and we'll talk a lot more about it when we get to respiration. Lysosomes contain enzymes to help digest materials. Centrioles help divide DNA during replication. And then I want to point out a couple of important organelles that are unique to plant cells. And so plant cells have a cell wall, and that's lacked by animal cells. Other types of eukaryotes also have cell walls, like fungi. But the cell wall is really just providing rigid support. They're also having a cell membrane, like an animal cell. Plant cells will also have a structure called a chloroplast for making their food, converting solar energy to chemical energy. And this process is called photosynthesis. And then finally, plant cells also have typically large vacuoles. And vacuoles are for storage. Animal cells will have multiple smaller vacuoles, but if you see a really big storage space in a cell, that's probably a clue that it's a plant cell. All right, that's it for these